The daughter of a millionaire never spoke until a trash collector exposed a life-changing secret. Claire Hastings stood by the shimmering fountain in her family's sprawling backyard, her designer dress trailing like a forgotten dream on the immaculate grass. At 16 she was the picture of privilege, a golden girl trapped behind walls of opulence, yearning to escape a gilded cage. With each passing day, the echo of laughter from her parents' lavish parties faded into white noise, drowning out her loneliness. They presented perfection to the world, her father with his upturned collar and calculating grin, her mother's flawless makeup hiding the weight of unshed tears. And there she was, mute, invisible, a ghost in her own home. One afternoon, as Claire wandered through the manicured streets of her posh Chicago suburb, she stumbled upon Jake. He was a trash collector, rugged yet kind, with laughter that resonated like a warm embrace. Their worlds clashed, yet something in his demeanor felt like home. As Jake loaded his truck, he paused. "You okay back there?" It was the first time someone had seen her, really seen her, and it ignited a flicker of hope in her heart. Days turned into weeks, and their conversations blossomed. Jake's world was raw and real. The stories he shared felt authentic, shaking her foundations. But as Claire began to trust him, their lively chats took a sharp turn. One day, while sorting through the trash, he pulled out a journal from her family's garbage, a relic filled with her father's shady dealings, exploitative practices hidden beneath slick words. The pages dripped with deceit and a startling disregard for those less fortunate. When Claire met Jake that afternoon, the revelation loomed between them like storm clouds. "Did you know?" he asked softly, his voice thick with emotion. Each word packed with unyielding truth pierced her heart. All along she had been shielded, cocooned in unchecked wealth while the world outside crumbled. The whispers of disharmony around her began to swirl in her mind, families torn apart by financial hardship, disconnected lives betrayed by greed. How can someone I love hurt others? She wondered, tears stinging her eyes. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days following her discovery stretched long and filled with questions. Would she remain silent, tethered to her father's empire, or find the courage to speak out? Each moment grew heavier, a moral labyrinth swirling around her. As gossip bubbled through her social circle, friends questioned her father's integrity. Claire felt raw and exposed, trapped between the loyalty to her father and the ache of injustice. An inner battle tore at her, echoing with fear and determination. Then came the night of the community meeting, a long-awaited gathering where her father's reputation lay in the balance. The air was thick with anticipation, concerned neighbors waiting for answers that could shatter the facade. Claire felt the weight of their gazes as she stood at the entrance, torn between her gilded upbringing and the stirring desire to claim her voice. As her father's name echoed in the room, Claire's heart raced. Would she choose to silence her truth or stand for what was right? Time froze, anticipation holding its breath, the community's hope dangling in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. The room buzzed with whispered speculations, a sea of faces taut with expectation. Claire gripped the edge of the polished wooden podium, her palms slick with sweat. Light flooded the space from glistening chandeliers overhead, but rather than banishing the shadows of her doubts, it spotlighted the conflict raging within her. Finally, the meeting began in earnest with her father, a man who commanded respect, rising to address the crowd. His voice came smooth and practiced, laced with confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to assure you that all rumors regarding my business practices are unfounded." The applause that followed momentarily swept Claire away, but it felt hollow, echoing against walls she now saw clearly for what they were: prisons, not palaces. As her father continued, Claire could feel the lie of it sitting heavy in her chest. Each smile he wore felt like a dagger driven deep into the truth she now held. Her heart thudded painfully as memories of Jake's earnest face flooded her mind. She didn't want to betray her family, but what had been hidden was beginning to eat away at her. The woman she pretended to be felt like a stranger. "Claire." A voice cut through her turmoil. It was Mrs. Thompson, her next-door neighbor, concern etched into her features. Your father has done great things for this community. What do you think? All eyes shifted to Claire, and the weight of their expectations began to bear down on her. Her throat constricted, nearly choking on the words she longed to say. The silence stretched eternal, promising freedom or doom. She couldn't yet tell. I think she sucked in a shaky breath, her pulse racing as she prepared herself to stand up for what she knew was right. But just as the words began to form, a flicker of movement caught her eye. The door swung open, and in walked Jake. His presence was magnetic, cutting through the cloud of tension like a beam of light. He scanned the room, finally fixing his gaze on her. Claire's heart soared and plummeted all at once. What was he doing here? Did he come to support her or to expose her father further? Claire's mind raced, but she was caught in the grip of his earnestness. It was like a call to arms, urging her to fight against the tide of complacency that had engulfed her. Claire! Jake shouted, his voice filled with raw emotion. You have to speak. The room turned to him, surprise etching their faces. Claire could feel her cheeks flush, her heart pounding like a drum, the chaos inside her amplifying. She could see her father's face harden in the shadows, the risk escalating. Speak. Can't you see? Jake called out again, his passion igniting a flicker of courage that flickered within her. For the first time, Claire didn't feel trapped by her heritage. She felt propelled by her desire for justice, a need for her voice to be heard. Everything I've learned, she began, her voice trembling yet growing stronger. Everything you think you know isn't the truth. Gasps rippled through the crowd, disbelief and wonder mixing beneath the surface. Claire felt the gravity of her choice, the air vibrating with a sense of possibility. But before her revelation could fully unfold, a sudden commotion erupted from the back of the hall. The tension cracked like thunder as figures emerged from the shadows, threatening to shatter her newfound resolve. What awaited her beyond those words, beyond the safety of silence? Claire! Wait! Jake shouted, concern etched across his face, but the wave of uncertainty crashed in, heavy and relentless. Fear doused her moment of liberation. Just as she thought she had taken control, the ground beneath her trembled. Claire closed her eyes, heart racing, torn between safety and truth, freedom and consequences. What came next could change everything. The moment felt electric, a charged silence blanketing the crowd. Claire hesitated, caught in that critical breath where everything changed. She could hear her heartbeat thundering in her ears as the figures from the back stepped forward, their intentions cloaked in shadow. Claire! You don't need to do this. Her father's voice boomed. The authority in it sent a wave of panic through her, but it wasn't strong enough to drown out Jake's fierce gaze. Don't let them silence you, Jake shouted, an urgency seeping from every word. Claire's eyes darted between her father's tightening jaw and Jake's open earnestness. This was a moment that could divide her family forever. But could she turn her back on the truth? She felt the trembling, the heat of 1,000 eyes weighing her down. And yet there was a glimmer of valor simmering inside her. Quiet down. Her father barked, but a ripple of dissent was already moving through the crowd, emboldened by her defiance. The figures approaching were unmistakable. It was the local reporters and a few community leaders. Familiar faces turned hostile with determination. As they drew closer, Claire noticed the worried expression of Mrs. Thompson, who shifted uneasily in her seat, concern for both Claire and the family she had known forever. That only confirmed in her heart the necessity of her own fight. Do you really think people will just forget the things you've done, Dad? Claire's voice broke out, raw and trembling but powerful. You built this empire on the backs of those you've exploited. You can't keep pretending everything is fine. The murmurs grew louder, blending with the rapid-fire beating of her heart. Claire felt buoyed by the murmurs of agreement. People were speaking up, siding with her. But was it enough? Claire! Her father bellowed. This meeting is not the place for these accusations. Speak with respect. Respect? You want respect? Claire's voice rang out, no longer a timid whisper. What respect have you shown the people you've hurt? The words hung in the air, heavy, potent, a mix of sorrow and unwavering courage. With each phrase she unleashed, the air felt lighter, as if she were breathing for the first time. But just as she felt the tide turning, another figure emerged from the back. Mr. Granger, the community's outspoken activist. Claire, he said, His voice soft but fervent. You need to know that you're not alone. We've known for a while. We've been waiting for someone like you to speak. Claire felt a swell of hope. But then the familiar chill as her father's face twisted in fury emerged. You should not be so naive. This is not your place. The crack in his voice was frightening. A desperate attempt to suppress the truths he wished to keep buried. Who will protect the people if you don't? What are we becoming? Claire shouted back, clenching her fists on the podium. She didn't recognize the fire in her own heart or the strength of the people rallying around her. But just then, before hope could fully ignite, a loud crash erupted at the side of the hall. An older man had stumbled, a trash collector with grime-stained hands, and he held up a crumpled paper. This, he shouted, breathing hard. This is what you need to see. All eyes turned toward him, confusion and anticipation mingling. Claire felt a pull, something bigger than just her fight. Was this the truth she had been longing for? Claire. Jake's voice pierced the chaos, urgency radiating from his every word. Whatever that paper is, it could change everything. What lay hidden in that tattered sheet could tear open the careful lies her father had woven. But would she be ready for the truth when it came to light? The room fell silent as all eyes fixated on the trembling hands of the trash collector. The crumpled paper fluttered slightly as he struggled to catch his breath, his face pale and worn. Claire felt her heart lurch, uncertainty gripping her as she ached to know the truth shrouded in this unexpected revelation. She stepped forward, intent on seizing this moment. But fear pooled in her stomach. What if it had the power to shatter everything? What do you have? She asked, her voice hardly above a whisper. The crowd leaned in, expectant, and for a moment, she sensed their shared heartbeats, their collective hope entwined with her own. Please, it's all here. The collector's voice quavered as he unfolded the paper, revealing a hastily scrawled plan. I found this in a dumpster behind your father's company. It's all planned out. Layoffs, cuts, profits before people. A murmur swept through the audience, confusion weaving its way into their expressions. Claire's breath hitched as she strained to see the words on the page, but her father's roar drowned out their whispers. You don't know what you're talking about, he thundered, stepping closer to Claire, his face flushed with fury. You're allowing these lies to fester. Lies? Claire recalled the faces of those suffering families torn apart, dreams crushed under his empire. Did he really believe he could silence the truth forever? A businessman must make hard decisions, he continued, voice tight. This is nothing but the price of progress. Progress at what cost? Claire pushed back, her voice rising. You're throwing people away. You think that's progress? The tension in the room thickened, electricity crackling as the truth collided violently with her father's steadfast facade. She looked at Jake, whose eyes mirrored her turmoil. What was at stake in this moment? Let him speak, Mr. Granger urged, his tone serious. We need to hear this. The trash collector nodded, his eagerness palpable. It goes deeper than that. There are names, people involved, connections that run high and deep, right to your family's doorstep. Claire's heart raced. The weight of the revelation sank in. This wasn't just about her father now. It meant that lives were entangled with hers in a chain she couldn't have imagined. The implications spiraled, and she felt dizzy with the choices ahead. Enough! Her father shouted, his voice breaking through her thoughts. Panic flickered in his eyes like a storm brewing. You're all being played. This is a distraction. But Claire wouldn't allow him to steer the conversation off course. No, Dad. This is their truth. You've decided your power matters more than their lives. Tension coursed through the hall as the crowd shifted, voices rising like a chorus of dissent. Claire felt the pulse of hope throbbing between them. She was not alone. Yet uncertainty washed over her. Could she handle what came next? The trash collector hesitated, glancing between father and daughter. There's more, he said, his voice wavering. I have proof of things that could ruin everything. A shiver ran down Claire's spine. What lay beyond that paper? Was she ready to unveil the darkness hiding in her father's legacy? Then she met Jake's gaze, filled with unwavering support. He believed in her, and in that moment, Claire knew she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was a voice for all those who had been silenced. Show us, Claire demanded softly but firmly, the weight of her determination anchoring her. Show us the truth. The hall seemed to hold its breath. Was it an invitation to the brink of chaos or hope? What had been hidden would soon be uncovered, where everything could change, including her relationship with her father. Could she stand strong against the life she knew? As the collector prepared to reveal the details, a single thought raced through her mind. Would she still recognize her father when the truth was finally laid bare? The trash collector took a shaky breath, his eyes darting to Claire before settling on the crowd. The paper trembled in his hands, as if it carried the weight of generations of decisions. "I know this is hard to hear," he began, voice low but steadying. "But this is not just about your father. It's bigger than that." Feeling the heartbeats of those surrounding her, Claire's pulse quickened. The air crackled with anticipation, thick as smoke that wouldn't clear. "What do you mean?" she urged, every word hanging in the air like a fragile promise. The collector unfolded the paper further, revealing not just figures but names. "These are the names of people who've been affected, workers, their families." And here he fumbled with the paper. "These are cuts planned to happen next month. Mass layoffs. All for a fat bonus." His anger sparkled in his eyes. "This isn't just numbers on a page. These are people with lives, stories, families." Claire felt heat rise in her chest at the bitter truth. She turned to her father, who stood rigid, face frozen in disbelief. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. The silence felt like a chasm opening between them, a gulf of emotions vast enough to swallow everything they once were. There was no denying the reality that loomed before them. "Your father is a good man," Claire heard Mr. Granger say, his voice careful. "But good men make mistakes too." "Good men?" Claire laughed bitterly, surprising herself. "Good men don't destroy lives for profit. What kind of world do we live in where money trumps humanity?" The words trembled with raw energy, and she could feel the crowd supporting her assertion. Faces she knew nodded in agreement, sharing her outrage. The collector continued, "There's something else. A connection to someone your father works with closely, someone who profits from these decisions." Her father's expression darkened. "That's enough. You will not smear my name in front of my own daughter." But Claire raised her chin, defiance swirling in her stomach. "You've already smeared your own name, Dad. I need to know who you've been working with. I need to understand why this is happening." As she spoke, Jake stepped forward. "This is bigger than your relationship with your father, Claire. We can't turn back now. This is the moment." And suddenly, a well of bravery flooded her. She gazed into the expectant eyes of the crowd, their pursuit of justice interwoven with her own. "Who?" she demanded again, wanting clarity, wanting to know just how deep the rot ran. The collector hesitated, fingering the paper, but then he took a deep breath. "It's Marcus Hale. He has been manipulating both sides for years. Your father trusted him, but he is using him to gather wealth while the workers suffer." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Claire's heart raced as anger boiled inside her. Marcus Hale? Claire had always admired him, a towering figure in the community. How could he be part of this? "Give me proof of this," her father demanded, but she could hear the quiver in his voice, the cracks beginning to form in his facade. "Proof," the collector repeated, flipping his paper over to reveal photographs tucked inside. "I have everything you need to understand just how deep this goes." As the visuals spread among the crowd, Claire felt solidarity ebb through the room. They were all in this together, their lives intersecting in ways she never imagined. In that moment, she realized something crucial. This was her chance to rewrite the narrative, to challenge not just her father's decisions but his entire legacy. She'd had enough of the shadows. The truth deserved light. Her father turned to look at her, eyes wide with desperation. "Claire, you don't have to do this. We can fix this." A wave of resolve washed over her. "No, Dad. You need to face this. I won't stand back and watch as lives are ruined. This is our call to action." The air was electric with tension. Claire felt every eye upon her, a single spark igniting the fire of resistance. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, but as clarity emerged, so did doubt. Could they truly uncover the depth of betrayal that lay beneath their world? As the collector prepared to share his evidence, Claire's heart thundered in her chest. Was she prepared for the fallout? The truth was close, but she could feel a shift in her father's posture. Fury and fear mixed with an undercurrent of regret. Could she bear to see a loved one unravel before her? Her mind raced with anticipation. What lay ahead could change everything or destroy it all. Would she find the courage to see this through? The collector's voice cut through the murmurs in the crowd as he revealed the first photograph. It showed a meeting between her father and Marcus Hale, a casual dinner setting that belied the storm of betrayal brewing beneath the surface. With a flick of his wrist, he turned another photo, and gasps echoed again. This time it was a document outlining plans for layoffs, the kind of paper that shouldn't exist in a world operated by any good man. Look at this, the collector urged, pointing to the names scrawled across the page. These are the people who will be left without jobs. Families you've known your whole life, Claire. She felt a knot twist in her stomach. It was one thing to hear a statistic. It was another to see faces, neighbors, friends on the brink of financial ruin. They were not just names. They were lives that intersected with hers. Her father shifted uncomfortably, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. Those decisions were made for the company, he began, voice losing strength. Don't you dare deflect this. Claire felt the words burst forth like a dam breaking. This isn't about the company. This is about human beings. Our neighbors are not expendable. Claire stepped closer to her father, willing the crowd's intensity to wash over him. You've spent your life in boardrooms and conferences. Do you even remember what it's like to be one of them? Shouts erupted from the crowd, echoing her passion. They stood together, a united front against her father's silence. Claire, I had no choice, her father stammered, genuine fear creeping into his eyes. You need to understand how these things work. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. The greater good? She echoed incredulously. This isn't good for anyone but Marcus Hale. He smiles in public, but behind closed doors, he's pulling the strings for profit. Those people don't matter to him. Claire's voice rolled with conviction, and she sensed the crowd was locked in her words. They were ready to act, ready to reclaim dignity for themselves and their families. Maybe you're just as guilty, Dad. Maybe you've been blind to the people suffering beneath your decisions. She threw the accusation like a lifeline, desperate for him to catch hold of the truth. Silence enveloped the crowd momentarily as they awaited her father's response. But all he could do was shake his head, shell-shocked. I thought I was doing what was best. I thought. Claire felt her heart shatter for him, but she quickly closed her eyes against the wave of frustration. The fissures in their relationship had widened too much to ignore, and she couldn't yield to thoughts of love now. I can't fix this for you, Claire said, desperation lining her voice. But I can do something about it. I need to stand for what's right. It was in that moment she turned towards the crowd. We need to act now. We start here. We go to the heart of the company, and we demand answers. We demand justice for our families. A roaring cheer erupted, each voice strong and powerful. The resolve of the community felt like a rising tide against the walls her father had erected. As Claire prepared to lead the group, part of her still hesitated. Was she truly ready to dismantle the life her father had built, despite the weight of her childhood memories wrapped around her? But before she could organize her thoughts, the collector urgently whispered to her, urgency etched on his face. Claire, there's more we need to find out. I don't think Marcus operates alone. There's a whole network. But we need proof. Time is running out. With the enormity of that statement hanging in the air, Claire felt a chill trace her spine. She had uncovered one layer, but how many more could possibly exist? Would the shock of truth shatter her family just as it did her perception of everyone she once admired? The path ahead was uncertainty, and each step forward had the potential to change everything. Could she brave the shadows that loomed around her? Or would she be consumed by the darkness she sought to dismantle? Doubt trickled in, wrapped tightly around her heart. Could she truly confront the deeper betrayal without losing herself along the way? Claire stood at the precipice of a decision, waves of adrenaline coursing through her as the crowd buzzed with a growing sense of urgency. The collector's words echoed in her mind. A network. If Marcus Hale was not alone, who were his accomplices? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, making her pulse race faster. Every eye in the crowd was on her, waiting for clarity's strength. She glanced at her father, his face pale and twisting in pain. There was a man she once respected, crumbling under the weight of his decisions. Yet the anger momentarily dulled by sorrow reignited, fueling her fight. Listen. Claire raised her voice, packed with determination. We will not be silenced. This isn't just about money or jobs. It's about our community. Together, we'll uncover the truth and save our neighbors from the grip of greed. More shouts rose in support, hands pumping the air like a battleground rally. She caught the eyes of familiar faces: Uncle Joe, the mechanic, and Hannah, the schoolteacher, people who had shared stories over barbecues, who had lent a helping hand during tough times. They were not mere acquaintances, they were family. And the realization cemented her resolve. Let us head to the company office. We will demand answers. She rallied, feeling the roar of their collective spirit. Adrenaline surged in her veins, pushing her forward into the unknown. But as they began to march down the street, a distant fear twinkled in her mind. Could she lead them into danger? The weight of that responsibility pressed down like a heavy fog. They were heading toward uncertainty, and Claire could hardly hold on to her own emotions, let alone those of the others. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chatter. Claire. It was the collector, pushing through the throngs. His expression was urgent, eyes wild. If you're serious about this, you have to be careful. There are eyes everywhere. Hail 1T, let this slide. Who else is involved? Her heart pounded in her chest, and she felt the thrill and fear coalescing. I'll do what I can to help you find out. Just trust me to gather the right information. His voice was passionate, a candle flickering in the storm. She nodded, swallowing her insecurities. Trust was a delicate thing, especially now. Still, with every step, she felt the ripple of unity behind her. Each person's determination eased her mind just enough to push forward. As they arrived at the glass-faced corporate building, its cold structure towered above them like a fortress. The glowing lights did little to illuminate the darkness hiding within. The crowd buzzed with excitement melded with fear. Are we ready? Claire asked, scanning their faces. She saw fear in some eyes but also fire in others. We stand together, reminding them of their humanity. We aren't just voices, they'll hear us. A chorus of affirmations greeted her, filling her with a surge of energy. The nerves still clawed at her insides, but she gripped the ache tightly, channeling it into action. They marched through the lobby, the usual calm replaced with palpable tension. The receptionist looked up, eyes widening in disbelief. You can't just. We're demanding a meeting with Marcus Hale. Claire interrupted, heart pounding. He needs to answer for the lives he's about to ruin. The receptionist hesitated, likely startled by the group's fervor. But before she could respond, a figure appeared at the back of the lobby. Claire. What is this? It was Marcus Hale, standing there like a dark cloud, arms crossed, voice smooth yet commanding. The crowd halted. Tension crackled in the air as Claire fought the urge to back down. This is about you, Marcus. About the people you're willing to throw away for profit. He stepped closer, a smile creeping onto his face. Ah, the passionate daughter of a millionaire. Leaving the comfort of your upbringing. How noble. His tone dripped with condescension. Something inside Claire snapped. You don't get to mock this. You're playing with people's lives. We're not just names on a spreadsheet. He leaned back slightly, surprised by her fierce response, and for a moment the crowd erupted again, a symphony of shouts and demands. But as their voices swelled, Claire's heart sank slightly. This was just the beginning, and she couldn't shake the feeling that there were darker secrets hiding just beneath the surface. In this high-stakes game, relationships, loyalties, and lives were on the line. What price would they all pay for the truth? Suddenly, a thought struck her like lightning. What happens when they come for us? What will we do then? Her own voice echoed her fear, and she looked around at the faces surrounding her. Would they stand firm when faced with that darkness? Just then she noticed something in Marcus's eyes, a flicker. Perhaps she wasn't the only one who understood the stakes. The encounter wasn't just about justice. It was about survival, for them all. With that realization, Claire stood taller, ready for what lay ahead. Would they be able to confront not only the truth but the shadows lurking behind it? Claire's heart thundered, a chaotic rhythm that matched the storm swirling in her mind. The crowd's calls were deafening, but in that moment, it felt like all sound faded as she focused on Marcus. His eyes glinted with something darker, something she couldn't quite place. The tension felt almost palpable. The lobby was now charged with electricity, a swirl of anticipation and dread. She could sense the room tightening like a coiled spring, ready to snap. Claire took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of unity behind her. None of them were backing down now. They had dared to stand against a giant. People like you think they can play God, she spat, her voice resonating with every crack of determination, but we are not your pawns. You'll see that today we'll find out just how brave you really are. Marcus's smile faltered for a heartbeat and, for the briefest moment, vulnerability flickered across his face. But then it was masked behind indifference, as if he was shaking off the dust of fear. Bravery is commendable, Claire, but it can lead to foolishness. You would do well to remember your place. His voice was smooth, yet there was a coldness that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand behind her. The murmurs grew louder, bolstered by the hope that she had ignited. Uncle Joe, voice firm, shouted, "We won't let you intimidate us anymore." Each pulse of support wrapped around Claire like an invisible cloak. Driven by a surge of courage, she pressed on. You think your money buys you power, but today we show you the strength of a united community. You can't put a price on our lives. Suddenly, a heavy-set man in a suit approached, his lines sharp, eyes pressing against her resolve. This is a private building. You need to leave or I'll call security, he warned, his voice a low growl. Her heart raced as glances exchanged among the crowd. Would they back down? As fear crept back in, she thought of her father, the way he always stood for what was right, even when it hurt. No, Claire shouted back, her voice steady. I'm not leaving until Marcus answers for his actions, until our voices are heard. A pocket of her allies started to chant truth. Justice. Their voices rose like a wave crashing on the shore, drowning out the looming threats. Enough. Hale finally roared, but the crowd did not waver. There was a newfound energy, infectious in its defiance. Claire felt it surge through her veins, pushing aside the panic that threatened to surface suddenly. A blast of grief struck her as flashes of her father flickered in her mind, the disappointment in his gaze before the accident. She wanted to shield those around her from the grief she felt. Marcus, you've built walls of deceit for too long. But we are here to break them down. It's time for you to face your consequences. Each word felt like a hammer, forging a path to a truth that had long been hidden. With a sudden flourish, he gestured toward the exit, his voice laced with irritation. If you think your pleas will change my mind, then you're even more naive than I thought. Get out while you still can. Oh, it's too late for that, Claire shot back, fire igniting in her chest. You'll have to deal with the consequences when we come for everything you've taken from us. We won't back down, not now. Suddenly, a shadow fell across her, a figure stepping out of the corner of her vision. The collector stood beside a group of uniforms, their presence a tense counterpoint to the crowd. Is this the kind of show you meant to put on? He asked, a small smile creeping across his face despite the tension hanging thick in the air. Claire swallowed hard as the realization hit her this was larger than just Marcus Hale. This entangled her future, her family, and her community. Get ready for a fight you didn't see coming, Claire muttered under her breath, gripping her resolve tightly. She turned to the crowd, heart racing, and raised her chin. Now is our moment. Another wave of energy pulsed through them, shaking the very foundation of Marcus Hale's empire. What could happen next? Would they strike fear into the heart of that darkness? Just then, a siren wailed in the distance, drawing closer, and Claire's gut twisted. She glanced over at the collector, who was staring past her with a mix of alarm and intrigue. What do we do now? She asked, her own voice fragile at the edge of hope. And there it was, the question lingering in the air, a silent challenge. Would they stand firm against the impending chaos? Or would the very structures they sought to dismantle come crashing down around them? The answer felt too close and yet just out of reach. Claire's breath caught as the sirens grew louder, slicing through the thick tension in the lobby. The uniforms, a line of authority, studied the scene like hawks circling a fragile territory. Her heart quickened, drumming a frantic rhythm that echoed her inner turmoil. Stay together, she urged, looking back at her friends, faces a mixture of fear and defiance. They were ready to fight, warriors in a battle not of fists, but of wills and voices. Marcus crossed his arms, a calculating smirk on his face, as if he welcomed the arrival of the law. You think they will side with you? The truth is they won't, he said. an icy tone dripping from his words. "Just watch us," Claire yelled, the boldness in her voice wrapping around her friends like a lifeline. They scooted closer, forming a wall of solidarity. The collector remained by her side, his eyes glinting with an odd mixture of amusement and sympathy. "You've certainly thrown a wedge into their plans, haven't you?" he remarked, nodding at the uniforms as they approached. The lead officer stepped forward, his demeanor firm yet cautiously intrigued. "What's going on here?" he barked, surveying the determined crowd and the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Marcus adjusted his cuffs, exuding an air of confidence, like he was above it all. "Just a little commotion led by this young lady." He turned his gaze toward Claire, eyes narrowing. "She's quite the troublemaker." The officer turned his focus on Claire, skepticism mingled with curiosity. "And you are?" "Claire Morrison," she replied, raising her chin defiantly. "And we're here to demand justice against the corruption that's gone unchecked for too long." "And what exactly is that corruption?" he asked, the lines etched on his forehead deepening. "Corporate greed. Exploitation. Lives destroyed," she shouted, feeling the fervor encapsulate the crowd again. "You might think you have power, Marcus, but today we show you that truth cannot be silenced." She felt more alive as they echoed her words, voices rising in a powerful chorus. The officer shifted, still maintaining eye contact with Claire. "If there are any real accusations, we'll need details. Otherwise, this can be seen as disturbing the peace." "Are you really here to protect him?" Uncle Joe piped up, ire fueling his voice. "You would stand by while the community crumbles under his greed?" "Mr. Hale's history doesn't grant him immunity," the officer replied, his voice grave. "But neither does a raucous crowd without proof of claims." Claire looked around, desperation creeping in. They had the need for evidence, but the corruption they faced seemed insurmountable. Then an idea flickered in her mind, a memory from the past. Her father's courage when facing doubters, how he never backed down until justice was served. "Wait," she called out, glancing at the collector. "What if he has something? Information?" The collector stepped closer, weighing his words. "I know things about Hale. Things that could change everything." "What do you mean?" she asked, her heart racing at the prospect. A glint of mischief crossed the collector's features, and he whispered, "Let me tell you about the time he suddenly—" A loud voice cut through the air, turning all heads. "Enough!" cried a new figure entering the room. A woman with fierce eyes and a commanding presence. The crowd fell silent, intrigue hanging in the air like a thick fog. Claire couldn't help but wonder. Was this woman friend or foe? And what secrets did she hold that could turn the tide in their favor or against them? The echoes of justice now teetered on a knife's edge. The woman strode forward, authority emanating like a beacon. "I'm Detective Elena Sanchez," she spoke, her voice sharp yet inviting. "What is happening here?" Claire's heart raced. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. "We're demanding answers from Marcus Hale about his corrupt practices. Lives are at stake." Detective Sanchez's eyes flickered with assessment as she surveyed the crowd. "And you, Mr. Hale? Are you prepared to address these allegations?" Marcus smirked, his facade unwavering. "These claims are baseless, Detective. Just an attempt to stir trouble by a few disgruntled citizens." "No," Claire interrupted, rising taller, emboldened by the support that surrounded her. "This is about truth. About the harm that's been inflicted on families." Detective Sanchez observed the crowd, catching the glimmers of hope and conviction in their faces. "If you have evidence, I encourage you to share it now. But I need everything laid out clearly." Every eye turned toward the collector, who stepped forward, determination in his stance. "I've seen the documents, the proof of planned layoffs. I found them discarded behind Hale's office. If you're willing, I can guide you to where more evidence lies." The tension in the air thickened, an electric charge between hope and uncertainty. Would the detective accept their plea? Could a revelation ripple through the structure of deceit? Marcus's expression shifted, glimmering with the recognition of potential disaster. "You'll not find anything credible," he spat, but the hesitation in his voice thundered louder than his words. "Then let us go," Claire urged, her voice ringing with fervor, sparking flames of belief within the crowd. "This is our chance. Together we can expose the truth." Claire could feel the charged atmosphere, the whisperings of support, the tightening of fists around resolve, and she thought of Jake, standing firmly by her side, his eyes shining with shared intention as Detective Sanchez led the way. Claire felt momentum shift beneath her feet. They marched not only towards a collection of documents but towards liberation, the very air murmuring with the potential for change. Each step carried the weight of reckless courage, reminding Claire just how powerful unity could be. Upon reaching the back of Hale's office, the collector revealed a hidden door, a safe tucked away amongst forgotten files. He quickly produced a set of keys, the metallic clinks echoing like war drums. The truth lies here, and today we will uncover it. The adrenaline surged as they gathered around, breath held, hearts pounding. The safe creaked open, revealing an array of papers that glittered with truth. Claire felt a rush of disbelief and dread. Would it be enough to fight against the tide? As she rifled through the documents, the atmosphere crackled with anticipation. These are contracts, deals, it's all here, Claire announced, her voice rising, enthusiasm igniting the crowd. Suddenly Marcus burst through the door, face pale but filled with rage. What are you doing? You have no right to be here. Claire stepped forward, daring the storm of emotions swirling within her. This is our right. We've come to reclaim justice for those you've hurt. Justice? He laughed bitterly. You think your little rebellion will change anything? This empire runs on greed. You're just a child playing dress-up. The sound of Claire's laughter cut through, genuine and powerful. You've underestimated us, Marcus. We're not children. We are a community united against your exploitation. Before Claire could continue, Detective Sanchez stepped in, her tone resolute. This isn't just rebelling for the sake of it. If your business practices are harmful, they will come with legal consequences. We have rights as citizens and your time is up. Marcus faltered, uncertainty flickering in his eyes amidst the crowd's growing energy. A unified force had formed, and Claire could feel the walls he built beginning to crack. Everyone deserves dignity, not profit from despair, Claire declared, emotion illuminating her heart like a beacon. The room resonated with agreement, the sounds of rallying voices echoing forth, and just then, as layers began to peel away, revealing the ugliness of truth, Claire noticed her father standing quietly in the doorway. Shadows crossed his face, emotion swirling wildly within him. He looked torn, but beneath it, she sensed a glimmer of understanding, realization anchoring him. Dad, Claire called, voice steady, her heart breaking for his struggle but fueled by fierceness. You trained me to stand for what's right. It's time to choose a side. The air hung heavy for what felt like eternity. She searched his face, hoping against hope that, just like her, he could accept the weight of the past while choosing the light of rebirth. The room held suspense, a palpable silence where a single decision could realign their lives. And as her father took a deep breath, Claire felt both opposition and support twining through the room, a living entity ready to forge a new path. I choose our community, he finally said, voice thick with sincerity. In that moment, Claire felt the earth shift beneath her feet. The truths that would emerge from this point on were no longer bound by the chains of the past. They sparkled with the promise of hope, and Claire's heart surged with newfound strength. Together we rise, she spoke, extending her hand toward the crowd, the weight of justice now intertwined with their spirits. Cheers erupted, a chorus of determination echoing through the hall, building an edifice of resistance against the shadows that once loomed overhead. They would forge toward a future where dignity reigned, side by side, the chains of the past snapping like brittle twine beneath their feet. And with that, Claire understood it fully. Truth could marinate in darkness, but ultimately, it would ignite flames of change that could light even the darkest corners. As they prepared to step out into the world, prepared to unveil the truth, a ripple of relief flowed through Claire. This was her moment as much as it was for everyone who had ever stood in silent suffering. With Jake at her side, the crowd chanting behind them, she finally felt free. The old world fell away. This was the dawn of something new, and now, if you have been moved, inspired, or felt the power of this transformation, I demand you to subscribe immediately to this channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Because together we can make a difference. Comment what this story meant to you and share your feelings about this amazing ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand the importance of lifting each other. So let us spread this message far and wide.